Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Rabbanim friends, thank you all for joining us, and Bruchim Habaim, welcome to Orit, to Aviram, and our guests from Israel who've come to spend some time with us this evening. Welcome to our community. It's difficult for us that we meet you at a time like this, but we really appreciate your bravery in coming here to share your story with us this evening. And we want to thank you for coming, to welcome you with open arms, and to tell you that we're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say, but we're looking forward to praying with you. As a Kehillah together, we've prayed every day since the 7th of October, when we were here in this Beit Knesset on Shmini Atzeret and we heard the terrible news. Every day since then, we've prayed together, having your families and everyone else in mind. And so to be able to pray together is something which is very special for us. We feel it's so important that everyone hears your message. And we'd like to be those agents who are going to pass on what you say tonight to everyone who'll listen, to make sure that the hostages will always have a voice, to make sure that the messages you tell us, we look forward to hearing about Almog, about who he is, just to be able to put a face to the names which we see, to make sure that this is something which is so real and so meaningful to each and every one of us. Friends, we pray together every day, and someone from the community asked me recently, he said, do you think the hostages in Gaza know that we're praying for them? Do you think they know? And I said, it's a good question, but I think every Jewish person knows that being part of Am Yisrael means that Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh. We are all there for each other. Everyone who's met someone else knows that we care about each other, and no matter where you are, we'll always be there together with each other, reaching out to each other, showing everyone how much we care. So just before we begin the proceedings of hearing from our guests this evening, I'd invite you all to come to pray, to say tefillot together with me. There are cards on the desks being handed out. There should be a few there. What we're going to do is these are Tehillim, which we normally say, Psalms 121, 125, and then Achenu. And our custom is to say these psalms. There should be some on the edges of each row to be passed around. We'll recite them line by line, phrase by phrase, the Tehillim. And then when we come to Achenu, we'll sing it together. Friends, I know that there are some of you who are used to saying these prayers. Please do join in. If they're unfamiliar to you, what I'd ask is what we do is we have in mind, particularly when we come to Achenu, the prayer of unity, the prayer where we remember that we reach out and we stand together with everyone who's going through difficulty and distress. Stand that bit closer to the person next to you. Put your arm around them if you feel comfortable, and remember that no one is alone. No matter how difficult times are, we stand together and we pray together. So if I can invite everyone to be upstanding, to face towards Jerusalem, you'll notice that the wall here depicts the stone from Jerusalem as we're going to recite the prayers, having in mind all the hostages, everyone who needs a refuah shalema, and ultimately for shalom, for peace. We begin with Psalm 121. Shir lamalos, esainai el harim, me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh shamayim va'aretz, al yitein lamot raglecha, al yanum shomerecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan shome Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tzilecha al yad yaminecha Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareyach balayla Adonai Yishmarcha mikol ra Yishmar es nafshecha Adonai Yishmar tzeisecha uvoecha Meyata v'yadoi laham. Continuing with Psalm 125. Shir hama'alos Havoitchim b'Adonai Kahar Tzion Lo yimot Li'olam yeshev Yerushalayim Harim saviv la V'Adonai saviv li'amoi me'ata v'yad olam ki lo yanuach shevet haresha al goral hatzadikim lema'an lo yishlechu hatzadikim bi'avlasa yedeihem heitiva Adonai latovim ve'lisharim b'liboisam v'hamatim al kalkaloisam yolichem Adonai espalei ha'aven shalom al Yisroel. Can I invite my rabbinic colleagues to come up and join me together as we stand and we sing Achenu. As I say, when we sing Achenu, I want you to remember that no one is ever alone. We say this prayer together. We say this prayer knowing that there are people who are in need of our comfort, of our suffering, who need to be taken out from distress as soon as possible. So stand next to the person next to you. If you're comfortable, put your arm around them and remember that as we sing together, no one should ever feel alone. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Friends, it's now my pleasure to hand over to Benjamin, who's going to introduce the rest of the evening.
Good evening to everybody here. Can I be heard? Yes. Clearly? I don't think the microphone's on, but can I be heard all the way at the back? Wonderful. It's a great privilege to be here with all of you, and I want to begin by extending some profound notes of thanks. First of all, to Rabbi Binstock. Rabbi Binstock was contacted only in recent days, and he said that he would open his kihila to the words that we're going to hear from our guests here tonight. Rabbi Binstock, thank you so very much for your leadership and for your confidence in the kihila that you steward, knowing that they would surely turn out in number. And I can tell you that rendition of Achenu is among the most emotional renditions of any prayer that I've ever seen in my life, and it's testament to you and all the members of your community here in Hale. Thank you so very much, Rabbi. I also want to thank Benjamin Salon. Thank you very, very much, Benjamin. I don't know where you are, like the Almighty. I can't see you, but I believe you're here. You're there. There you are. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. To my co-founder, Rosita Panini. Thank you, Rosita, for everything that you do. And from afar to Richard Offenbacher, who has worked behind the scenes to coordinate this evening as well, and also to our partners, Magen David Adom. One final note of thanks to the security team and to the members of the police for keeping us safe here this evening and each and every day, and I'm sure you'll join me in extending a round of applause to them for that purpose. Some of you may already be wondering what it is that you can do in order to assist with this dreadful crisis into which our guests here tonight have been thrust. One thing that you can do is donate directly to their cause, not to our cause, not to the Miriam Institute, but to their cause. You can do that by way of the purchase of a bracelet. The bracelets are selling for £5 each. You can also do that by way of a purchase of a diskit, or what you call a dog tag, I believe here, the ID tag that soldiers wear in the Israel Defense Forces. Those are selling at £10, and you can, of course, add to whatever that amount is as you see fit, and to give whatever is on your heart to give. Those are outside, and Rabbi, I believe that we're taking the names and people can register. Where can they register for that? Outside, there's a list. Please write your names and we will collect your donation later on. It's very, very important that they be supported because, quite frankly, they are here under their own power. The Israeli government did not finance this. They did not fund this. They are here under their own power, and they need your help and they need your support, as you would want to be helped and supported were you to be thrust into such a dreadful, dreadful dynamic. Our guests here today are Orit Meir. She is the mother of Almog. You're going to see a video in short order in which Almog is featured. Almog was kidnapped on October the 7th during the course of what was the most horrific rampage against the Jewish people since the horrors of the Holocaust. Since that day, he has been held by Hamas terrorists inside the Gaza Strip. No visitation from the International Red Cross. No proof of life has been provided whatsoever, except for a video that was cynically filmed by the terrorists of Hamas, showing Almog bound, frightened, covering his face. And that video has been seen by his mother. And that video has also been seen by his uncle Aviram Meir, who is here with us today as well. Aviram Meir is a former officer in Sayeret Matkal. For those of you who may not be familiar with Sayeret Matkal was the military unit that brought back the hostages from Entebbe. It's to that unit, though not that raid, to which this gentleman was assigned during his military career. And I mention it because it is a total inversion of what is within this man's better nature, that he has to come to the general public and seek their help and their assistance, rather than be able to take matters into the hands of himself and his comrades who know to do that work of God, which is to protect the citizens and the civilians of the State of Israel. Both of them are going to be speaking to you here tonight. This will be the final presentation that they give during the course of their visit here to the United Kingdom, that has included talks to members of the House of Lords and the Parliament, to influencers and community members down in London. Our organization has handled delegations of generals, heads of Mossad, politicians, diplomats. We've never had as challenging and as difficult a delegation as this one, because the responsibility that these individuals carry upon their shoulders is the most profound of all, that of maintaining and fighting for the very life of a dear family member. I cannot imagine a bond stronger than that between a mother and her son. Doron Lipstein, who was supposed to be with us tonight, was not able to appear because he, having lost 4 members of his family by way of them being murdered on October the 7th, felt compelled to return to his mother in the State of Israel today, and he apologizes for not being with us. Here in the United Kingdom, marches in support of Hamas after the events of October the 7th are taking place too regularly, too unabashedly, and without sufficient shame. There are too many people within the borders of this great country who paraded in the most militant of fashions in support of an organization that has raped, decapitated, murdered, and kidnapped our people and our unborn children. A baby was born inside the Gaza Strip just last week in captivity. The readiness of those people to march in such a depraved manner draws to my memory the three-stanza poem composed by Amir Gilboa, a poet from Ukraine who moved to what was then Palestine. And he said, when it came to the attitudes of the nations of the world towards the Jewish people, quote, Im yaroni etz v'omar etz yomru etz. Im yaroni even v'omar even yomru even. Ach im yaroni dam v'omar dam yomru tzeva. What Gilboa wrote was that if the nations of the world showed him as a Jew a tree, and he concurred that it was a tree, they'd say, yes, it's a tree. If they showed him a stone and he concurred that it was a stone, they'd say, yes, it's a stone. But if they were to show him his Jewish blood spilled, and he was to concur that it was his Jewish blood spilled, they'd say, it's not Jewish blood, it's just paint. It's just color. How tragic it is that we see that there are hundreds of thousands within this once great country who would reduce the value of spilled Jewish blood to nothing more than color and spilled paint. I'm a veteran of service in the Israel Defense Forces. I served in the Second Lebanon War in 2006, deep inside Lebanon. I did so again in 2012 during Operation Pillar of Defense, and again in Operation Protective Edge in 2014. I went to the Israel Defense Forces in no small part because my family fell victim to dreadful anti-Semitism here in the United Kingdom, in this very city, in the area of Krempsel. When he was 16 years of age, my older brother Jonathan was beaten so severely that he had to undergo 3 liver transplants as a consequence of the injuries that he sustained, his health deteriorating after a severe attack was wrought upon him by 7 men at 8:30 in the morning on his way to the King David High School. In September of 2020, Jonathan had to undergo a 4th liver transplant. During those intervening years, he had gotten married. He has a daughter named Maya. Bezrat Hashem, with God's help, B'Sha'at Tovah, he has another child now on the way. I make mention of that only because I want all of you to know that I know and recognize, though I no longer live here, the realities of Jew hatred. I want to speak for just a moment about the soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces who are not represented here today. Having walked the walk into the war zones that I just mentioned, I can tell you well that I know the mindset of our soldiers, I know the morality with which they act, and I also know the mindset of our enemies. And it's high time that everybody understood it's either them or us. Can't coexist with these monsters. My dear brother, the youngest of the 7 siblings, Alexander, is inside the Gaza Strip now as I speak to you, he having been drafted as a tank driver. And I believe that he's exactly the right man in exactly the right place at the right time doing the right thing, fighting for the people in the state of Israel. I'm proud of him. And I'm proud of all of those by whom he is surrounded. I want to conclude with 2 quick points before we bring up the family members to talk to you. During the 4th liver transplant that my brother was required to undergo, there was, about a week prior to that surgery, a dreadful downturn in his health. He'd been admitted some months earlier with liver failure, and then in the course of a weekend, he was moved into the intensive care unit with lung failure and with kidney failure, and he was a stroke away from heart failure. As a result of that, it was decided by his surgical team that he should not be operated on. And I received a telephone call from his anesthesiologist who urged me to cease treatment, which I resisted. And as he was lobbying me to cease treatment for humane reasons, he reiterated that which I've just told you, that Jonathan had been admitted with liver failure. He then had lung failure, kidney failure, might have heart failure. And then he went on to say something almost by the by. He said, now he can recover from all of those, of course, but it's very unlikely. And when he uttered those words, he can recover from those, of course, I learned something that I'd never known until that phone call. I'd learned that organ failure doesn't have to be fatal. I'd always thought that if kidneys fail, that's the end of one's kidneys, lungs, and so on. But actually there are two kinds of failure. There's an acute failure, which can be fleeting, and there is a chronic failure, which has much more permanent ramifications. I mention that for one reason only. Of course, my brother did recover. But failure, remember this, friends, is not necessarily fatal. The reality of the matter is, and I won't insult anybody's intelligence by pretending otherwise, that the occurrence of October the 7th signifies the greatest failure of the security forces of the State of Israel since our founding and of our leadership. But failure need not be fatal. This failure will not be fatal. You're not watching the demise of the State of Israel. You're not witnessing the destruction of the one and only Jewish state. What you're actually, in my opinion, bearing witness to is the State of Israel stepping into its finest hour. Our soldiers are on the march. We are finding victory in every engagement with these terrorists. And I do believe that we will smash them and destroy them and vanquish them from the face of the earth. And I do believe that we might yet bring home our hostages, who, as you sang with such devotion, are our brethren, each and every one of them. Because I stand here in a Bet Knesset, I conclude with this quote: "B'makom she'en anashim, hishtadel lihyot ish." In a place where there is no humanity, strive to be human. There is no humanity among Hamas. Our soldiers are in the midst of delivering humanity to a place that hitherto has been ruled by demons and nothing less than that. Those soldiers will be accused of war crimes, but they're not criminals. They are malachim. They're angels who are marching where humans dare not tread. One final personal note. When that anesthesiologist contacted me, my brother was in the room and he was croaking. The human body emits a croaking sign when it's about to pass from this earth. That's how close he came. But be very, very clear, all of you. The Israel Defense Forces is not croaking. In fact, what all of you are hearing, what all of you are seeing in the media coverage, what you're listening to, is the roar of the Lion of Judah. And the beloved Israel that you paused to wonder whether it was safe or not on October the 7th, I can assure you remains strong, remains certain and remains a beacon of security and a blanket of safety for every Jew on this earth. Be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help, אנחנו ננצח, we will win, and we will, one day, not this day, but one day, realize our most profound prayer, that of knowing Shalom al Yisrael, peace over Israel. I thank you, and I ask you to join me as I invite our guests to the stage. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear on this microphone? My task here, before we come to questions, is to let Orit and Aviram do their own talking. They come to you at a moment where there is a mooted deal. It's for that reason, a mooted deal for the release of hostages, it's for that reason that I want to ask you to do that rarest of things. I want you to turn your phones to silent, and if there should be any report about anything, I ask you not to refer that to anybody here this night at all, for reasons of obvious sensitivity and consideration. With that, Orit, I'd like you to begin by telling the people your story. You want to start with the video? So they'd like to begin by showing the video of their son.
Thank you for coming to hear my story. This is my son, Almog. Almog is only 21 years old. And Almog is he is a guy with values, smart, love life, with lots of energy. My son was supposed to start a new job in high-tech. He was looking for it. And so he went the next Sunday. He was supposed to start a new job, and he went to celebrate in a festival for peace and love in south of Israel. He was excited to go to this party. My son loved to dance. We are in a happy family. I'm going by myself to dance. The last time I saw him was the October 6th. He went with his friend Tomer to the party. Tomer came to pick him up to the festival. And he said goodbye to me. It was 11 p.m. And in the morning, on Saturday, He woke me up at 7:45 a.m. And he said to me, "Mom, they closed the party. There are rockets and shooting everywhere. I don't know what is going on. I'll be in contact with you every half an hour. I'm hiding now. Mom, I love you." Since then, I don't have any contact with him. We published his picture in the Facebook, and we asked her who saw Almog. He went to Nova Festival. That's the name of the festival. And after 3 hours, I had a phone call from someone who recognized my son from a video clip that the Hamas published. And when she sent me the video clip, I recognized my son immediately. He was lying in a dark room with other 4 young guys that he don't know. Some of them were tied on their hands, beaten, and my son lied on the floor. He covered his face with his hands, and he was frightened. You can't imagine what I felt, like a knife in my stomach. I started to scream. I called my daughter. She knew from someone else who sent her the video clip. My brother called me. I told him, it's horrible. I tried to look for a phone call of Tomer's parents, his friend who went with him to the party. It took me some time because I didn't know the phone number. But when we had a contact, I understood that Tomer called his parents at 9:30 in the morning. He told them that they decided to escape by car. They started to drive. 2 other girls came into the car with them. After a few meters, the terrorists shoot at the car exploded, they escape, start to run. The 2 girls are sisters, they ran, and their father called them, and the phone was open for 1.5 hours. While they were running. After some time, the father told the girls to lie down like they are dead. But the terrorists killed them. And the father murdered. and the father listened to their last breath. Tomer ran away by himself. They killed him, they murdered him, and it took 2 weeks to identify his body. After they killed him, they burned the body. And my son kidnapped. My son is all my world. It's so hard to see the empty bed. I'm living now in hell. No eating. I can't drive, I can't concentrate. No sleeping, thinking all the time about how can I bring him back home. I think you continue.
Almog is hostage for 45 days. I believe it's 45. Almog is hostage in Gaza Street for 45 days. We haven't heard from him. We don't know his situation. We don't know if he got hurt. We know that he arrived his captivity healthy, on his feet. But 45 days have passed, and we have no idea what's going on with him. And he is just one example. There are more 237 hostages, I believe. It's changing every day, so I'm not sure about the number. And we don't know anything about their situation. The first thing we would like to know, this is the first goal of coming here and telling our story, is to get help, to know from Red Cross or from UN or from any organization in the world to enter the Gaza Street and just see what is their situation. If they need medicine, if they have other needs. There are lots of hostages who arrived injured to Gaza Street. This is the main goal, or the immediate goal. Another goal that we have, I imagine all the time, a big sand clock that is in Almog's room and is ticking. It's ticking all the time, and every minute counts, every hour, every day. And this is, from this feeling, this is the incentive to come every day, to wake up every day, and to think what we are doing today to bring him back. What does it mean to bring him back? Because I can't go to Gaza Street and pull him off the caves or the tunnels or the basements or what it is. What we decided to do is to bring the awareness of the hostages and Almog specifically to the world. We would like you and everyone in the world talking about it every day, waking up like us in the morning and say what we can do to bring them back. This is the main thing that we would like to do. And if you'll talk about it, and we will talk about it, and others will talk about it, our government, the Israeli government, can't let it go. Can't say that the hostages is less important and beating the Hamas is more important. For us, bringing the hostages back, it's like the beginning of the recover, or we are in Bet Knesset, the tikkun. We would like to make a tikkun. And it can't start without the hostages. After the hostages will come back home, and not in body bags, because we received 2 hostages last week in body bags. We changed now the slogan to bring them home now alive. It's not enough to bring them back, because if they come in body bags, the tikkun won't happen. And we have a lot of things to do to recover Israel. We have lots of work, not just military, civilian. You see here my sister. Although she's crying, she's very, very, very strong. Coming here, talking with you, needs lots of forces, a lot of energy. Most of our family colleagues, hostages family colleagues, we are now a family, by the way. We didn't pick this family, but we are one of it, are not functioning. Most of the families are not functioning. 20% of the families are functioning, and 80% are still don't process the situation of the tragedy they passed. And they can't get out of their houses or their beds to fight for their hostage. So brothers or uncles or cousins are doing it for them, but you have to understand, 20% are functioning and fighting, and other 80 are still processing the situation. This evening is emotional specifically. Somewhere in Tel Aviv, our government is sitting now, and they have to decide about the deal. I have no details about the deal. I know what you know, I believe. The press, all the time, giving us details, which I know that most of them are not right. Yesterday, we talked with the press in the Israeli embassy, and I asked the press to be very specific with the details that they're giving, because every detail for their story is stabbing our stomach of the families. For us, every little detail, if he's eating, what he's wearing, if he's brushing his teeth, it's important. For the media, it's a story, maybe nice story, maybe attractive story, but for us, it's
reality.
It's reality. It's impossible to describe the roller coaster that we are living on all the time. So, what we need from you, it's a little bit of sympathy. Sympathy, it's nice, but it's not enough. We liked it very much in the first few weeks, but we understand that it's not enough. So what we need you to do, please, we ask you to do, not we tell you to do. Sorry that I'm talking this way. We need you to first enter the pages of the hostages. Every name of hostage have an Instagram page or a Facebook page. See their stories. Publish them. Talk with your neighbors. Talk with your families. Talk with your business partners. Talk with everyone you can. Even talk with the politicians, local politicians, local influencers. Talk with them all day long. Talk with them. Talk about them, the hostages. And then we would like you to press the UK government that she'll talk with first the Red Cross to enter inside Gaza Street to bring us a picture of the medical situation, and then to all the time press on a deal. If there will be a deal tonight, it will be a deal for some of the hostages. I don't know even to tell what and how, but it will be some. And let's say that 50 hostages will be released. Our new nightmare is that the others will be rotten in the basement, like Ron Arad, like Oron Shaul and Adar Goldin. This is our new nightmare. So we have nightmare after nightmare after nightmare, and those nightmares are reality. It's not nightmares. We can't awake from it. All we want is to stay at bed and not to do anything. But we have to do, and we ask you to help us. And I believe that together we can do things. And I believe that this humanity matter, which is not political, it's not just Jewish matter, it is a humanitarian. And this is the slogan that I ask you to go with. It's a humanitarian matter. People have been kidnapped from their beds or from a musical festival. Every minute counts. Thank you very much.
חיוך, אלמוג, יש לך חיוך כובש.
So
The first thing I want everybody to know is that tonight you will be receiving an email. That email will contain links. Is there some reverberation? No? You can hear me? That email will contain links to what Aviram mentioned. All of you must, as he said, not should, but must, follow those links, and all of you must share those links with anyone and everybody that you know. And we also want all of you, please, to take the time now, during the questions and answers session, to think about who are the influencers, who are the leaders, who are the politicians, who are the writers, with whom you can connect as, in order to press forward the agenda of this family. I'll give you an example. There are major football clubs in this city. Someone in this room knows somebody in one of those clubs, or a former player in one of those clubs, or a former manager, or a commentator who will make a statement along the lines of kidnapping kids is offside, or kidnapping kids is not fair play, or kidnapping kids is out of bounds, or taking hostages is offside, whatever the iteration may be. Someone in this room knows somebody, and I want us to meet those people. And the reason for that is because the context of what has taken place is being buried beneath the headlines that are being circulated throughout the media here in the United Kingdom about Israel's questionable, according to the media narrative, the false media narrative, questionable actions inside the Gaza Strip. We want you to place us in touch with the politicians. We want you to place us in touch with the agents. We want you to place us in touch with the influencers in lifestyle, in any aspect of the media whatsoever, and you will be receiving an email to that effect, and I want you to do something with the email. And the way you should engage in this is precisely the way in which you would engage were, God forbid, one of your children. God forbid, a family member of yours. You wouldn't rest until they came home. And that's what they're expecting from you. And dare I say it, they're entitled to have that expectation. Because these are your children, and these are our family members. Nothing less than that. Either we meant the prayer at the beginning, or we didn't mean it. And I want to believe that we did. And the evidence of us meaning it will be your actions. With that, what we're going to do is we're going to take some questions by show of hands. I'm asking only for questions. I'm pleading with you, imploring you, please do not make statements. If I hear statements, unfortunately, I'll have to intervene and cut you off and direct them to whichever of the two here you would like to direct them to, and feel free to ask by show of hands.
Should we be doing what we can to pressurize the Red Cross, which is one of the worst factors of this whole thing, and what can we do to try and get to them, because it's so completely outrageous.
So Joy has asked, just for the benefit of the recording, I'm repeating the question for the benefit of the audience, they've already said this, Joy, just to be clear, they've given a very clear call for everyone to do everything they can, starting with the Red Cross, and how can they go about pressuring the International Red Cross to do their job, basically.
First, we met representative of the Red Cross in Greece last 2 weeks, before 2 weeks. And he told us very directly that the Hamas not allowed the Red Cross enter the field, and they can't do anything. And when we asked him to declare what he just told us publicly, he refused. Yeah, he refused. And I just started to think about the funding of the Red Cross, because if he's not doing his job, who's funding him? For what? The only thing, the decision makers are sitting in Geneva. But making demonstration next to the Red Cross offices in London or Manchester or whatever they sit here in England, it's working. It's working. We have been there in Tel Aviv, in the Red Cross offices in Tel Aviv. About 1,000 people came. Most of them were doctors and nurses and medical staff. And it was a very big demonstration. And I think the pressure is working. Slowly, not effectively, but working.
Other questions? Yes, please.
Do you have any confidence that the same government that bring us the kishalon, like you say, on the defense, the same government that for years said that we are absolutely secure and it will never happen again what happened in 1973, is the fit government to conduct today the Matan for the terrorists and bring the people back soon as possible?
The question was asked whether you believe that the same government that's responsible for this security failure is the government you believe is capable of carrying out the negotiations that are taking place. Do you want to answer?
I will tell you frankly. Personally, I don't support this government. But this is what we have. This is the only government we have. And I know that they are working because we meet with them all the time. Last night, the cabinet, the Bitchoni, the security cabinet met about 90 or 100 people from the families. And they talked with them. It was the first time, by the way, with lots of pressure that we pressed the government to meet with us, the cabinet members to meet with us. Before I came to UK, I met two members of the cabinet, Gantz and Eisenkot, which told us about the same what they said yesterday. If I like it, I don't like it, this is what we have. I believe when the war ends, when the hostages will come back, we have to deal with it. This is one of our matters to deal. But I believe it won't happen now. It won't happen now, these days.
Now we must bring them back before judge, before we ask questions the government. Now it's the time to bring them back, not dealing with politics. This is our government, and I have no choice. I have to trust them.
I have full trust, by the way, in the IDF, in the intelligence system that is working and probably working good, and full trust in IDF.
I think we'll take just a couple of last questions. Anybody else have a question? You shouldn't be backward in coming forward. If you have a question, it'll help. The question that you have on your heart probably is a question on the heart of many others. Does anyone else have a question? Yes, madam.
How
The question is, how does the adverse media covering the situation in Gaza affect your campaign to bring not just Almog, but the family's campaigns to bring the hostages home? Do you feel that? Do you pay attention to it? Do you know if it's having an impact?
It's an easy question. Most of my days pass in Israel, so the television is very. So the news are very Israeli, for Israel, of course. I met in the last 3 days that we are here with several communities, Jewish communities in London, and I understand that the media is not even here or is covering more the damages of the houses in Gaza than the story of the hostages. I talked with the Israeli ambassador yesterday about it, that we need lots of more families coming here to the UK and talk with the media and talk with the decision makers and the Jewish community. I understood that coming here, talking with you, giving you new forces to deal with the narrative that is running in the media, because we have to turn it around. So if our presence here give you things to deal with this narrative, so we did something. But the narrative should be changed here. And if we can help, we will come again and again and again. And I just have been interviewed by the BBC 5 minutes before we started. We have to change the narrative. And the narrative, again, I understood that the narrative of humanitarian is something that can pass here, not political.
Yesterday we went to the parliament, and on the entrance I had a T-shirt with a picture of my son. Yes? I came with this T-shirt, and on the entrance they saw the T-shirt and they asked me to take it off. And I came with this picture, this poster, and they're not allowed me to take it inside. After 3 people who came, officers came from the security. And I told them, it's my son. It's not political. They didn't allow me to take this. I had to take it off and to change. This is your government. I must tell you, I saw the news, I saw that you have, איך אומרים, ההפגנות האלה שיש להם? There are lots of demonstrations here from the Muslims. You have lots of Muslims here. It can come to your land. If it happened in our land, in Israel, it can happen here. And you must be careful. Open your eyes. I told my son, I asked him, where is the party? He said to me, in Kibbutz Reim. I said to him, it's very close to Gaza. So he said, so what? They have a permission. They got from the army. They got from, איך זה פיקוד העורף? איך? They got from the police. It was so, it was okay. He went to celebrate, and he didn't come back. He was kidnapped, and now he's in Gaza. And I need your help. All the connections. I decided to walk. We decided to bring it back. We will do everything. I'll cry everywhere. And I tell my story. And I need your help. By bringing it my story, and there are so many stories. My story is little. There are families that have the kids there, and the mother, and the grandmother. Horrible stories. They raped them. They've done horrible things. They are masters. And you live with masters here. Like we were. איך אומרים, יהירים? We were arrogant. We heard soldiers told us that I can't explain. You can. שהיו התראות, והמדינה לא התייחסה בגלל יהירות. זה מה שאני רוצה להגיד.
I agree with Orit, with my sister. We were arrogant. We thought we handle, we control, we are strong.
We are safe.
We are huge country with lots of tax, lots of technology. And we thought we are very strong and nothing will shake us off. But we were wrong. And now we didn't start to deal with what happened in the 7th of October. It's something that we put aside and we know that we have to go back to it. But we don't deal it now. But stories are starting to come and cover our ears with terrible stories about terrible decision makers. I'm talking about, for example, the observer's soldier's girl who saw lots of things and they reported it. And the commanders and the intelligence just said it's not important.
They
ignore it or thought it's not so important. Anyhow, for sure, we were arrogant. Totally. I suggest you not to be arrogant with the problems you have in UK and in Europe. But this is not my deal now. I believe you will be in major problem in 10 years, I don't know. But you are the Jewish community, you feel it in your daily life. I don't have to tell you about it. You feel it more than me. I just tell you to be aware. This is it.
We're not going to take another question. I'm just going to, before I make a concluding comment, I want to invite the co-founder of our organization to just make a comment to all of you. And then, Rabbi, I'll say some words and we'll turn it to you to conclude.
Thank you so much for coming this evening. As Benjamin introduced me, I do the work at the non-for-profit organization that we have in the US. I have been born in Iran, raised in Israel, served in the IDF. I have served in the first Lebanon war, but I have experienced the 6-Day War and the Yom Kippur War. And I was in Israel when October 7th has broken. And I want to tell you, as one citizen of Israel and the United States, that what we have experienced on that day was like nothing I have ever experienced. Totally nothing like it. And my biggest fear is that either in the US, with the way universities are going and the rate that they are going here, one day communities, our people, my Jewish people, will experience it not only in Israel, but everywhere else that there is a community. And I started my work on the next day, on the 8th of October, working with the soldiers, because I knew what is expected, what do we need to do. But then one day I said to myself, wait a minute, the soldiers are taken care of. Orit, I know you because one of my best friends that I have been in high school with from the age of 15 is a very close friend to Orit. And every day I would hear Vicky, my friend, coming and telling me, Rosita, I went to see Orit. And that's the situation. And they trying to bring awareness. And they trying to do everything under their power, with the government, with the Red Cross, with anybody. What can you do? Please, you need to help. So I feel today, our army, they well taken care of. The families, Orit, Aviram, I ask on their behalf, the strength that I have seen for the last 4 days and the way that they asking for the help, it's not because they go and ask for it every single day of their life. It's because this is the time that they really, really need you all. So please, we are here. I will share my phone numbers with you, my email address, anything you could do to help out in any way would be a blessing. I want to say toda rabba. Thank you for you all for being here tonight. And Am Yisrael Chai. Right. Oh, good. Thank you so much.
I just want to conclude, thank you so much, Rosita, by reiterating a couple of points. You know, there's a saying, tell people what you're going to tell them what you want to tell them, then tell them what they just heard from you. The first thing is I want to add a little bit of color to what Orit said. When she was told to take off the T-shirt by the guards at the House of Commons, there was no restroom. She wasn't granted any access. It was before she went through the metal detector. And when the guard was asked, where is she supposed to disrobe? She said, I don't care, just take off the T-shirt. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's controversial but very true. I can guarantee you that had that been a band of pro-Palestinian campaigners, that guard would have quaked in their boots before confronting those who want to militate for the cause of Hamas. And the reason for that is because it simply, as we know, is a different set of rules for Jews, here in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. The second thing is, as you've heard from them today, they don't want to be here. I can tell you they don't want to be here. I mentioned at the top of the evening that we've undertaken many, many delegations. All of the delegates have wanted to be here. It is completely unnatural for these two individuals to be here in front of you this evening. They do not want to be here. They're grateful that you're here. But of course, they are here because they feel compelled to do the work that they don't feel the government is undertaking. And so when Aviram says to you that he will come back again and again and again, I want you to be very clear. To do that, they need funding. Nobody's funding this. Our organization has funded this trip. We funded the trip to the United States. But they need funding. So if parents and relatives of the captured are willing to get on a plane and do the unnatural, somebody in this room must have the capabilities and the desire to help to fund that for the sake of all the house of Israel. And if you're here, we want to meet you, and we want to become acquainted with you, and we want you to help us. The final point about their tour here. We sent an email to the conservative Friends of Israel asking for a meeting. They responded back saying that they needed 3 to 5 days notice in order to bring about such a meeting. Now that's indicative of this dissonance with the sand timer that Aviram spoke about. Almog is not in a situation to which the appropriate response is, give us 3 to 5 days of notice before we actually do anything. That is a paradigmatic example of members of parliament failing to represent their constituents. A complete failure to represent their constituents. And that is why all of you need to be lobbying, contacting, writing to your elected officials. And if you haven't already done so, it's time to put pen to paper. And if you're not demonstrating, it's time to do so, and it's time to press this point about the International Red Cross. And finally, I just want to reiterate my profound thanks. This is not an easy tour for these individuals to take on. They've done it. I thank all of you for greeting them with the warmth that you did. And in Judaism, Hachnasat Orchim, hospitality, is a central tenet in our faith, but it's defined not by how we greet people, but rather by how we see them off to their next destination. And I hope that after the rabbi brings us to a close by way of his comments and his tefillah, each of you will again envelop them in the love and the warmth that you did so ably at the commencement of this evening as we conclude. Thank you very much indeed, Rabbi.
Thank you so much on behalf of everyone here, to Orit and to Aviram. Thank you for your bravery, for your courage, and for your really strong and passionate words. And we're going to take them to heart. Thank you, Benjamin, for really reminding us of the importance of this, and to each and every one of us to do whatever we can, to not forget what's gone on, to do whatever we can, not just to bring them home, but to bring them home now and alive. I'm not going to add anything more because I think there's nothing more to say, but rather to say we're going to conclude with 2 prayers followed by Hatikvah. If I can invite everyone to be upstanding, we're going to say a prayer for the Israeli Defense Forces, a prayer for the hostages, and then we'll end by singing Hatikvah, the national anthem. We're going to sing the Mishaberach for the Chayalim. If you know the tune, you're welcome to join in together. Mishaberach Avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov hu yevarech et chayalei tzva hagana leYisrael hu yevarech et chayalei tzva hagana leYisrael hu yevarech et chayalei tzva hagana leYisrael haomdim al mishmar arteinu ve'arei Eloheinu bigevul halvanon v'midbar Mitzrayim umin hayam hagadol alavo harava bayavasha ba'avir uvayam hu yevarech et chayalei tzva hagana leYisrael Yitein Adonai esaveinu hakamal nigafnu v'neihem HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmar v'yatzil escharim mikal tzorotuka u'mikal negal machala v'yishlach bracha v'atzlacha b'chol maaseh yedeihem yad bersonenu tachteihem v'yatrei michesi Yeshua v'ateres nitzachon v'yikram behem hakasuf ki Adonai Elohechem ha'olechim achem nilachim lachem imaveichem lo shia eschem v'noimar Amen. We'll now continue with the prayer for those being held in captivity. Misheberach Avoteinu Avraham Yitzhak Yaakov Yosef Moshe Aaron David v'Shlomo Hu Yivarech v'Yishmor v'Yintzar Es Nedrei Tzva Haganah Yisrael Ushvoyav V'et Kol Achiinu Hanusun Batzara V'Shivya V'Avur Shekol HaKol HaKadosh Hazeh Mispalel B'Avuram HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Yimaleihem V'Yotzieh Mechoshech V'Tzal Maves U'Mosrasehem Yinatek Imtzukotsehem Yoshiyem V'Sheveh Mehira Lechek Mishpachosehem Yodu L'Adonai Chastoi V'Nifloi Sav Limnei Adam V'Kram Behem Mikra Shekasuf U'Fduye Adonai Yeshuvun U'Vol Etzion Brina V'Simchas Olam Al Rosham Saso Nesimcha Yasigu V'Nas Yagam Anacha V'Noimar Amen. We conclude together with Hatikvah.
Rabbi Binstock, Orit Meir, we thank you very much.